Prepare to splice the main brace because there's carnage a-comin' with the boldest buccaneers of the natural world. We're counting down the top 10 most extreme pirates in the animal kingdom to find out which wild raider is most dedicated to a life of crime. Discover that more than your timbers will shiver when piracy is taken to the most extreme.
Earth is a planet of extremes. Extreme places. And extreme animals. But some animals are more extreme than others. Join us as we count down to find the most unusual and the most extraordinary on Animal Planet's The Most Extreme. Number 10.
In the movies, pirates are all swashbuckling adventurers. In reality, their life was grim, full of violence, danger, and death. Things are little different for the buccaneers of the natural world. And while some animals devote all their lives to causing chaos and mayhem, our countdown begins with a part-time pirate.
Get ready for action!
You can find it cruising around tropical islands, just like the fast and maneuverable ships that once gave the frigate bird its name. These seabirds are so nimble that instead of diving, they use their viciously hooked beaks to snag fish off the water's surface. But this aerial agility doesn't come naturally. A chick has to learn how to become a skilled hunter, which is why some young frigate birds turn to piracy. Why bother going fishing when there are plenty of tropic birds bringing home food for chicks of their own? The frigate bird is number 10 in the countdown because it's an expert at mid-air muggings. It won't let go until its victim coughs up, literally. And even when you've landed, there's still terror in the skies. Luckily for this colony of boobies, it's usually only a small percentage of frigate birds that learn how to become pirates. And while few humans have sailed under the skull and crossbones, 40 years ago, one boy really did turn his boldest dreams into a thrilling adventure. Meet America's last remaining official pirate.
Stand by. Send the fore topman aloft. Loose the fore topsail and topgallant. Stops off of everything. Let's get underway.
Captain Horatio Sinbad is a modern-day swashbuckler born at least 250 years too late. When he was 19, he built his first replica of a 17th century two-masted brigantine in his backyard. He spent the last 30 years on board, keeping the pirate legend alive.
Avast, Bart. Come on out here. You've got plotting and planning to do here.
For Captain Sinbad, playing pirate is a little farce and a lot of lifestyle, especially since he has an official commission signed by a former president of the United States of America.
I like being a pirate, but I also like being a privateer. Privateer is really nothing but a pirate with a legal piece of paper allowing him to go out and attack a foreign vessel. Run out the guns.
Aye, aye. Bell guns ready.
Train at the port. Stand by. My commission does allow me to go out and attack the English or anybody suspected of English. Fire! Reload!
So far, his cannons fire only blanks, and the English hit only with water balloons.
Fire!
Sinbad's not the only one who thinks it's fun. His home port of Beaufort, North Carolina, liked him so much that in 2006, he was named Citizen of the Year. And that's an honor that no one would pass on to a frigate bird. Set up house too close to a colony of these aerial pirates when they're building their nests, and you're in big trouble. That's because frigate birds will target a booby not just for its lunch, but its stick. The frigate bird is number 10 in the countdown because it's only a part-time pirate. At the end of the breeding season, these colonies empty. Deprived of victims, the pirates return to the sea to fish. Unlike animals we'll meet later in the countdown, that carry out their dastardly deeds all year long.
Number 9.
Our next contender is a pirate who knows that treasure really can fall from the sky. The only trouble is that in Africa, it doesn't rain pennies from heaven, but poo. This is brown gold for the animal flying in to number 9 in the countdown, the dung beetle. There are more than 7,000 species of these six-legged sanitation workers, and they all know that a fresh pile of animal excrement is a protein-packed treasure trove. While some beetles eat fast, others get their dung to go. They roll it into a ball so they can move it away from all the competition. But this plays into the hands of pirates. That's because not all dung beetles like to roll their own. When they see a ball on the move, it's all hands to the poop deck. The dung beetle is number 9 in the countdown because it will take any opportunity to try to steal someone else's treasure. A dung ball can be stolen several times by raiders of many different species. However, these beetles are still only part-time thieves. Although their lives don't depend on being able to mug a mate, the constant threat of attack still ensures that dung beetles hurry to bury their smelly treasure. But would human pirates really want to throw all their ill-gotten gold into a hole in the ground? Given their short life expectancy, it's been suggested that the crew of a pirate ship found more reliable ways to safeguard their savings. One theory is that they buried their treasure in their earlobes. Wearing a large gold earring ensured that a pirate, no matter how down on his luck, would at least have enough gold on him to pay for a decent funeral. Not surprisingly, this buccaneering bug has no intention of turning its treasure into earrings of excrement. The quicker it can bury its stolen dung ball, the better. Underground, the sphere of juicy goodness is hidden from other pirates, and it's a safe place to bring up its babies. Dung beetles are so keen to get their treasure underground that it's been estimated that they bury nearly half a ton of dung per acre per year. And that makes the world a much nicer place for us all.
While our first two contenders were buccaneers that stole everything from balls to branches. Still to come, we'll learn how to hide nuts from the cutest thief in the countdown. And later, what bloodthirsty parrot could drive a pirate captain to drink? Number 8.
The next contender in our countdown of extreme pirates is found high up, not in the masts of a ship, but in the trees of this park. The squirrel is not as cute and cuddly as it looks, especially in the middle of winter when food is scarce. A nut is worth its weight in gold, which is why squirrels have come up with cunning ways to fool furry pirates in the park, and a team of Pennsylvania University students.
Throws it in his mouth and moves away.
They've observed that when a squirrel thinks it's alone, it will quickly bury the nut.
Keep digging.
But now, the squirrel's also being watched by a pirate.
Looks like he's shoved and covered.
Unaware of the watching eyes, the squirrel quickly buries its nut and moves on. That means the watching pirate has no trouble digging up the buried treasure. So, to protect their precious nuts, some squirrels get sneaky. They've been seen to change their behavior if they know they're being watched. They try to fool the potential pirate by just pretending to bury their nut.
Dig, move. Dig. Move. Digs. Moves. Digs, moves. Digs. Shoving the nut in the ground. Covering, putting leaves over.
Imagine if you were surrounded by hungry pirates. Your food won't last long if they saw where you buried it. So, to fool the pirates, simply take your treasure, make a big show of burying it, and then hide it somewhere else. It works really well when you're surrounded by thieving squirrels and students. In this park, there are pirates with 2 legs, because the researchers not only dig up the squirrel's buried treasure, but they brag about it.
There it is. I got it. There we go. You see that, squirrel? All right.
But as Professor Sylvia Hulkin from Central Connecticut University explains, it's all in the name of science.
We watch the squirrel bury a nut, and then we go out and try to dig it up. And we show it to the squirrel and say, "We got your nut." Then we give it another nut and see if the next time it buries a nut, it'll cover a place in addition to the place where it did put it.
The squirrel's attempts at deception increase in direct proportion to the perceived threat to their nuts, which takes real brains, according to Dr. Mike Steele of Wilkes University.
The process of tactical deception is considered primarily or almost exclusively the domain of primates, and to demonstrate this kind of deceptive behavior in a rodent is particularly interesting.
There's nothing like living among pirates as an incentive to learn fast. And it's this tactical thinking that's kept the squirrel at only number 8 in the countdown. It's so good at fooling its shipmates that any pirates living in the woods had better not be relying on the wages of sin to keep them well fed.
Number 7.
Sitting inside a web that can be 6 feet in diameter, you'd think that a spider with a 6-inch leg span would be able to take care of itself. It's certainly more than a match for even the biggest flying insects. Yet this Nephilim spider is about to be boarded by the tiny animal at number 7 in our countdown of extreme pirates. This is the spider, Argyrodes. It may be small, but it's capable of extreme skullduggery. The raid begins when it plucks the Nephilim's web like a fiddle. It's trying to pinpoint the location of the treasure chest. In this case, a juicy fly that the huge Nephilim spider has caught and prepared for dinner. Like a pirate ship using grappling hooks, Argyrodes swings alongside and attaches its own silk ropes to the prize. Then it cuts the fly free and sails away to safety. It's an amazingly efficient raid. Argyrodes can steal things 30 times its own size from right under the nose of one of the most formidable-looking spiders on the planet. And now it seems that not all human pirates made such clean getaways. Just ask David Moore. He's hot on the trail of one of the world's most infamous buccaneers. In 1717, Blackbeard the pirate and his murderous crew began plundering their way up and down the east coast of America and the Caribbean. Although his reign of terror lasted only 2 short years, his name lives on today. And so does evidence of perhaps a rather embarrassing mistake. It seems that Blackbeard the pirate may have had to abandon ship when he steered it onto a sandbar. Research by David Moore, curator of nautical archaeology at the Maritime Museum in Beaufort, North Carolina, suggests that wreckage found a few miles off the coast is indeed the remains of Blackbeard's flagship. Unfortunately, she looks a little different now.
When we go down to the bottom, a lot of people might expect to see a full-blown ship, with a skeleton hanging on the ship's wheel and what have you. But more often than not, most of these shipwrecks will have undergone some very major changes and essentially just fallen apart.
And when you talk about sunken pirate ships, most people expect to see a treasure chest full of gold. Unfortunately, David's research suggests that when Blackbeard abandoned ship, he took with him most of the valuable plunder. However, that's not to say the wreck doesn't still have a surprise or two.
It was not one of the things that we could find on this ship, but we definitely did find some small portions of gold dust.
But for these pirate hunters, the real treasure of Blackbeard's ship isn't made of gold. It's the priceless remains of a bygone era. It's lucky for David that Blackbeard wasn't as slick as the Argyrodes spider, because this 8-legged pirate leaves no evidence of its stealthy raids. If only animals coming up in the countdown were as non-violent.
Number 6.
While pirates and parrots usually go together like swash and buckle, there is one bird that you really don't want sitting on your shoulder. Flying in to number 6 in the countdown is the Thekia. It's the world's only alpine parrot and lives high in the southern Alps of New Zealand. It may be a very long way from the sea, but the Thekia has learned a trick or two that would make even Blackbeard blush. Most parrots are harmless vegetarians, and for much of the time, the Thekia is also happy feeding on flowers, fruits, and leaf buds. However, it's number 6 in the countdown because to survive high in the mountains, the Thekia has developed a taste for flesh. It supplements its diet by being the only carnivorous parrot in the world. Armed with a remarkable intelligence and a beak like a cutlass, it rips open the nests of other birds in search of the golden treasure that is the egg yolk. And just like the pirates of Hollywood, the Thekia has found a gruesome way of getting at buried treasure within a living body. While a pirate captain may be pleased with digging up a bloody ring, when you're trying to survive in the mountains in winter, food is more valuable than any diamond. These hills are full of fatty treasure. The only trouble is that it's buried under thick layers of wool. When the first farmers arrived in New Zealand, they thought their sheep would be perfectly safe in a land with no big predators like wolves or coyotes. Little did they know that here the pirates have feathers. Thanks to infrared cameras, we can see the Thekia launch its attack. It's not after the whole sheep, just the layer of fat surrounding its kidneys. Perhaps these pirates once developed a taste for fat when they scavenged carcasses in skins, but now they've discovered how to eat on the hoof. It may look as barbaric as any crime committed by the most notorious human pirates, but for the Thekia, it provides a much-needed source of energy to see it through the winter. Unfortunately for the sheep, the attack can sometimes result in blood poisoning and death. It's not surprising that some farmers think the Thekia is a menace, but there are other humans that fall victim to these feathered bandits. Their sharp minds and sharper beaks mean that anything left outside in the mountains is possible plunder. Picking apart a campsite may not provide much nutrition, but it does illustrate how this pirate has become the terror of not the high seas, but high mountains. It's our first contender whose life depends on its pillaging ability. But batten down the hatches, because coming up there are pirates who are doing far worse things for their pound of flesh.
So far, we've uncovered the facts about plundering parrots and scurrilous spiders. But is the truth the first thing to go overboard when we see people walking the plank? And later, could it be that for Captain Hook, life on the high seas wasn't without its compensation? Number 5.
It's not just men behaving badly in our countdown of the most extreme pirates. Once, a handful of women terrorized the 7 seas. But you have to travel to Africa to find the real queen of the pirates. The hyena has a terrible reputation for all kinds of skullduggery. It's number 5 in the countdown because it's supposed to be happier stealing someone else's food than hunting for itself. The clan is led by the most ferocious female. This bloodthirsty captain leads her motley crew on raids of other animals' kitchens, even when they just happen to be the queen of the jungle. Even Blackbeard would think twice about trying to shift a pride of lions away from their kill. But Blackbeard's crew wasn't armed with bone-crushing jaws. There's no doubt that these pirate queens are scary scavengers. But are they really as bad as their reputation? The hyena is definitely the most misunderstood pirate in the countdown. Contrary to popular belief, hyenas actually hunt more than they scavenge, and they're good at it. This much maligned animal is actually the dominant predator in Africa, accounting for as many as half of all animals killed. But then, there are all kinds of myths associated with pirates. Everybody's heard that the standard form of execution on a pirate ship was to make someone walk the plank. Unfortunately, it ain't true. It was thought to have first appeared in the novel Peter Pan. Real pirates had much simpler ways of killing people. But then people never let the facts get in the way of a good story. After all, it's much easier to believe that the dirty hyena is a sneaky scavenger and that the regal lion is the king of the jungle. And yet, researchers have found that lions steal up to 15% of their diet. In fact, they regularly pinch food from hyenas. So it seems that hyenas may not be quite as bad as their reputation, and they're definitely nowhere near as bloodthirsty as the pirates coming up in the countdown.
Number 4.
Our next contender really knows how to monkey around. It's the baboon. In Africa, people either love these mischievous monkeys or hate them, because some baboons have turned into powerful pirates. The largest of all monkeys, baboons live in troops of up to 200 individuals, so a raiding party can get into all kinds of trouble. Half a loaf of discarded bread will provide a baboon with the same nutrition as 4 hours spent foraging in the undergrowth, so it's no wonder that they'll go to extreme lengths to find human food. And yet, it's partly our fault that the baboon is number 4 in the countdown. In baboon society, the highest-ranked individual gets to eat first. Low-ranking members of the troop have to surrender their food to the dominant male. So any human who feeds the baboons is regarded as pretty low on the totem pole. As a result, the baboons have come to expect any human to feed them. Especially tourists who can't resist the temptation of a photo opportunity, even though feeding baboons is strictly forbidden. The trouble begins when the baboon treats humans just like any other low-ranking member of the troop. It's perfectly natural for them to become aggressive, to steal food, and even attack. As a result, some locals are starting to stand up to the pirates, and this can lead to baboons being injured. If only they had access to the maritime Medicare used by real pirates. There's little doubt that a life of crime wasn't all plain sailing for pirates. Vicious battles and primitive medical care meant that the crew could suffer terrible injuries. Luckily, each pirate was protected. It's thought that the captain of each ship used what was possibly the world's first accident compensation plan. Let's say you were covered by the pirate code and somehow you lost an eye. Assuming you survived the infection, you could expect to receive about 100 pieces of 8. Lose a finger and you get about the same amount of compensation. However, if you somehow lost your left leg, you'd receive a hefty 400 pieces of 8. Lose your right leg, and you'd get a little more money to put towards a wooden peg. Your left arm was another 500 pieces, but your right arm was deemed to be more important, since about 85% of all people in the world are right-handed. And if that all sounds too good to be true, just remember that back in the 17th century, 1 piece of 8 was worth about 12.5 cents. Unfortunately, there's no compensation for these four-legged pirates. And as human developments encroach more and more into the baboons' territories, there's every chance that other troops are going to be lured into a life of crime.
So far, the countdown's been packed to the gunnels with motley crews and mangy curs. But none of them disguised their piracy with a fancy costume and a dastardly dance. And can you identify this callous killer with a taste for termites? Number 3.
Our countdown of the biggest buccaneers in the animal kingdom continues with a sight that every sailor feared. The Jolly Roger. Flying the skull and crossbones was an early form of psychological warfare. It could intimidate some ships to surrender on the spot. However, when others saw the Jolly Roger, they'd make a run for it. That's why some pirates, including our next contender, flew a very different flag on their mast. These flags, or colors, showed their country of origin. Only when the pirates were in range would they strike their colors and hoist the Jolly Roger. To rule the waves, these pirates waived the rules. And so does the animal at number 3 in the countdown. It flies false colors down in Davy Jones' locker. This is a cleaner fish, and it is not a pirate. In fact, it's one of the nicest fish in the sea because it makes a living picking parasites off other fish. Every day, up to 2,500 reef fish will queue to be cleaned. However, this friendly fish is just an innocent pawn in a devilish game of dress-up. This is not a cleaner fish. It's a diabolical double called the Sabertooth Benny. It has the same stripes down its side as a cleaner fish and mimics its movements, but it's armed with teeth like a miniature shark. The Sabertooth Benny is number 3 in the countdown because this pirate doesn't just pick at parasites. It's flying under false colors, so it can sidle up close to an unsuspecting fish waiting to be cleaned. And then it attacks. The pirate makes off with a mouthful of food, while its victim is left with a hole in its tail fin and a deep distrust of small, striped fish. It seems that it's a classic case of once bitten, twice shy. Experienced fish seem to learn how to recognize the imposter and will often attack it. The Sabertooth Benny relies on its disguise to make hit-and-run raids on unsuspecting victims. Our next contender also flies under false colors, but its attacks are far more devastating. No life is spared, no quarter given.
Number 2.
This is a fortress, and it's guarded by hundreds of thousands of soldiers. So you'd think the termites in their mound would be safe from attack by pirates. But danger can strike when least expected. When the walls are breached, it's all hands on deck to repair the hole. The termites mix dirt, saliva, and excrement to form a plaster that sets like concrete. And in the process, they create a disguise for the pirate that's slipping silently into number 2 in the countdown. This is an assassin bug. It's completely covered in termite plaster, so it looks, feels, and smells just like part of the nest, which is why the termites never know what hits them. The bug uses its beak like a hypodermic needle to suck the life out of its helpless victim. The assassin bug is number 2 in the countdown because, just like a Sabertooth Benny, it's a pirate that sails under false colors. But this bug doesn't just hit and run. It keeps hold of its victims and uses it as bait to lure other termites into striking distance. Termites are fastidious cleaners and will hurry to remove a dead body from the nest. Big mistake. For the assassin bug, Entering a termite mound is like being on a treasure island and having the gold come to you. If only it was as easy for a real-life Robinson Crusoe. In 1704, an argumentative Scotsman called Alexander Selkirk got into a fight with his captain and was marooned on an island 360 miles off the coast of Chile. The story of his 4 years of isolation inspired Daniel Defoe to write his novel, Robinson Crusoe. But Selkirk may not have been in such a hurry to leave had he known what was buried under his feet. This was a real-life treasure island. It's said that a Spanish sailor buried more than 600 barrels of gold ingots, silver pieces, and gems looted from the Incans during the Spanish occupation. And there it remained until 2005, when a Chilean company claimed to have located the loot, buried some 50 feet under the treasure island. "5 feet beneath a termite mound, it's much harder to detect the presence of the pirate at number 2 in the countdown. And that's how the assassin bug can lure up to 30 termites in a row to a horrible death. But not even this carnage can compete with the atrocities of the most extreme pirate in the countdown.
We've seen the 9 contenders. They're the worst of the worst. Only one animal is a bigger buccaneer. It's number 1.
Swarming in to number 1 in the countdown is a crew of cold-hearted cutthroats. They're Amazon ants, and their entire life is devoted to crime. They've given up foraging for food and even cleaning their own nest. Who needs the drudgery of housework when you can steal yourself a slave? This is a raiding party, and the scouts have located a colony of black formica ants. Like all pirates, the Amazons are ruthless killers. They use their jaws like swords, piercing the brains of any ants that stand against them. Leaving a trail of destruction behind them, the Amazons move underground in search of a living treasure. They enter the brood chamber and collect formica eggs and cocoons in those massive jaws. Then they head back to their own nest with their booty of babies. There was a time when human pirates also took prisoners back to their ship, in the hope that they could collect a ransom for their return. But today, modern pirates are after another kind of treasure. At any one time, 600 cargo ships are passing through the Straits of Malacca between Indonesia and Malaysia. Each year, half the world's oil and almost a third of all trade pass through this waterway. No wonder it's a magnet for pirates. While US dollars and wristwatches are the favored loot, some pirates will steal the whole ship, be it a fishing boat or a supertanker. Often the crew is forced into lifeboats and set adrift, but that's a far better fate than that awaiting the prisoners of the Amazon ant. Back at the nest, these 6-legged pirates depend on their captured slaves for their very survival. The Amazon ant's massive jaws are good for only 2 things: killing and kidnapping. So the emerging formica ants are forced to forage for food and regurgitate it to the colony members of both species. The Amazons don't even have to guard their slaves. Because they were snatched as babies and reared in the Amazon colony, the Formica workers become imprinted with the odors of the pirates and think it's perfectly natural to have to feed their captors. It seems that in this case, crime does pay, which is why, when it comes to piracy, Amazon ants really are the most extreme.